Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Small Business Pivots. Today, I've got something a little different for you. I was recently a guest on the podcast Small Business Answer Man, and we had a fantastic conversation on how to run your business effectively, hosted by Gary Wilbers. I thought it would be valuable to share that episode with you all so you can hear some of my thoughts on how to run a business effectively so you can own a business that can run without you. I hope you enjoy the episode as much as I enjoyed being a part of it, and I'm excited for you to hear my insights from the other side of the mic. Be sure to go listen to more episodes of Small Business Answer Man with Gary Wilbers after listening to this episode. And be sure to let me know what you think, and if you'd like to hear more episodes with me behind the mic in the guest seat. Here we go.
Wondering how you can become better at running your business? Entrepreneurship can be stressful. There's too much to do and not enough time. If you're isolated in your daily decisions, have no fear. Success and balance are possible. Welcome to the Small Business Answer Man podcast, where you master the art of running a successful business using practical advice from experts who want to help you succeed. Now, here's your host, Gary Wilbers.
Welcome. We're glad to have you back again. I told you this third quarter, my goal was to find people that I can bring on the podcast that would help you the rest of this year, but it really jumpstarts you for 2025 also, because I'm a firm believer as business owners, we're third quarter, so we're starting to think about that change. It's hard to believe 2025 will be here before we know it. And so we have to get that mindset of saying, okay, what are we going to do differently the rest of this year to really propel us forward in next year? And business is changing. It's been changing the last several years, but it keeps changing on us. And we're in a political year this year. So all those dynamics that's there as business owners, we have to take into account. So today I've got a business owner with us that used to be a business owner. Now he's a coach. And we shared some information before, and I just thought he would be a great guest to bring on the podcast. So I'm so excited to have him. So Michael, would you share with them what problem will you help them solve today?
Well, I find that most small business owners are stuck. And those that are stuck, they want a business that can run without them. We keep hearing about the E-myth and, work on the business, not in the business. But so many of them are stuck in the business. They don't have an ounce of energy or time to work on the business. So that's what we're going to focus on today.
Oh, that's going to be a great conversation. I'm excited to have Michael Morrison. He's a small business consultant, a coach, a mentor, and a serial entrepreneur, husband and father with a passion for helping others to live a life they love. Why? Because he's been there, and he's even wrote a book about it. Having owned businesses for over 2 decades, he understands what it's like working long hours, ending the day and not feeling like you've accomplished anything, constantly putting out those fires and the chaos of managing cash flow. Michael resides in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Michael, it is great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, I appreciate you coming on because you've been an entrepreneur. You're still an entrepreneur. We're still business owners. We may be taking a different path to our businesses now, but we've done that. And I'm sure you probably have some other businesses that you do, just like I do, besides my business that I talk about here with the Small Business Answer Man. But the big thing I thought is maybe a great way to start. You kind of shared with them we're working on the business instead of always in the business and stuff. And I think from your philosophy, you have this philosophy of the boss. And if you could share with us kind of how that could help us be more successful thinking of business owners, because we're all the boss, right?
Right. Right. Well, and the term boss doesn't have a good rap with it anymore, right? We're not supposed to be the boss. We're supposed to be the leader. Well, at the end of the day, you're still the boss. You own this thing, so you better be the boss as well. And so we try to bring a fresh idea to what the boss of a business looks like. And so BOSS stands for Business Ownership Simplified for Success. And this was created years ago. I've been coaching for over a decade, owned businesses for well over 2 decades. And this company evolved out of my journey as an entrepreneur. So what we're doing with Boss is we're not just coaching, we're not just business loans, we're not just resources. We are a stepping stone of my journey in entrepreneurship. Of when I started my first business, I was like everybody else. I didn't know what I didn't know. It wasn't until I got a coach that actually catapulted me to the next level. Once I got a coach, I needed money, so we had this strategy of how we're going to scale, how we're going to automate and systemize and all that. But I needed equipment, newer equipment. And so I couldn't get money. I went from bank to bank, filled out their applications, wait 4, 6, 8 weeks, underwriting. We need this one more document. I'd get them the document. Nope, not approved. So I'd have to go to another. Well, it delayed me for at least a year and a half before I actually got a $50,000 loan. And to me, that was a big deal. I really needed about 500,000, but I only got 50,000. So we added small business loans to Boss. The next thing I needed was, okay, I need a right-hand person. I need an external brain, somebody that can think like me, that can execute like me. So I got an assistant. So our next thing is virtual admin assistants virtually. So we're just going to keep those milestones that I hit, and then I'd get stuck. What was that? What did I need? And so we're building this business to offer those resources. And over time, I kind of say we'll be the Amazon for small business owners, where they come here, they get that, they enjoyed the service, had a great experience, it really helped them, so they just keep coming back, and that's how Boss helps.
Well, that's awesome. I love your philosophy, and it really helps a business owner of where they're in, whatever progression they're in. And some of them because you've experienced them. So you've got some of them in place now. And I'm sure if they come with one that you've not thought of and it's a recurring thing, then you're creating it. And that's, again, being that entrepreneur, always thinking, always kind of outside of the box. And I wasn't going to ask you this, but I think we need to ask it because so many people, you're a coach, I'm a coach, and, I talk to business owners, but I know, and I have no percentages or numbers, I don't know that side of it, but I'm a belief that every business owner should have a coach. And I'm not saying this because you're on my podcast and because people are listening, but the thing is, it changes that because it allows you, what you said, to think outside of yourself. Because otherwise we get too closed in. And that's some of my philosophy, and I don't want to give all mine, but I want to hear from your side of it. What you've either seen from clients, what you've seen, you've already shared some personally, how experience where it really made you create a new level for yourself and your company. And I don't know if enough business owners know the advantages of truly having a business coach on their side.
Well, I'll try to keep it short.
That's okay.
The benefits of a coach, let me just start with, I'm a business coach, you're a business coach, and I'm sure you're like me. I have my coaches. And I'm not talking about the coaches we have on staff. I have external. They're not just next door in the office. No, they're coaches. I have an accountability coach to keep me on track, keep me on pace, because we all need accountability. I also have a business coach, so I have several coaches for different facets of my life. The benefits of a coach is, they can keep you steered in the right direction, because a lot of us zigzag, especially as business owners. I find that so many entrepreneurs, we're all visionaries. So, I'm rambling here and we're going to do this and offer that. And I'm already thinking 5, 10 years down the road. And one of my coaches says, you need to slow down. Let us execute. Now we're moving as fast as we can, but let us execute what you've already talked about. So that's one benefit. Another one is, I said earlier, we don't know what we don't know. The reason I have a business coach, I know why I have an accountability coach. The reason I have a business coach is because this coach has been 10 light years ahead of where I've been. So I don't know what I don't know, so they're kind of steering me in that direction. A coach can also be a sounding board. My wife in one of my businesses, she was our lead sales director. We had about 80 plus employees. She worked at the business, but she didn't want to hear about the entrepreneur side. It didn't make sense to her. She's more of the employee team mindset. I'm the visionary. And so we couldn't even connect. She wasn't a sounding board for me when it came to the business stuff. And so there's a lot of benefits for coaches. Those are just a few.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that because I think it's so important. And what I'm trying to tell you is, people that's listening to the podcast, It can be Michael, it can be myself, it can be somebody else in the network. Get somebody you're comfortable working with that talks your language, that you understand. But I'm telling you, go get yourself a business coach. And I'm just going to make that plug because I think it's so important. And I guarantee you, whatever you're paying, your return on investment will be there. And
Yeah, you can't
it's
even
your
put a
number.
number on that part. And I do want to share this because everybody's a coach these days, right? I share this with entrepreneurs, whether it's you or me or neither one of us, at least make sure you're a fit with that coach. Make sure that coach has owned businesses before. There are too many business coaches out there that have never owned a business and they're teaching from a book or something like that. You can't run a business from a book. Books are great little nuggets. They help us along, but there's nothing like someone that's walked in your shoes before that can get it and get you where you want to go.
Yeah, they know the struggles. They've had the employees. They know
Yeah.
those challenges, and they know every day's a rat race and the challenge of finding that time. I agree with you totally. Well, let's go a different route here. Let's talk about sales a little bit, Michael, if you don't mind. And that's a challenge to grow a small business. And if you want to take it to that next level, sales is one of those areas that we've really got to understand, not only marketing, but we have to understand sales because that brings the revenue in for our companies. Do you have any strategies that you could share with our listeners, some of your concepts and beliefs that you have about sales?
Yeah. For a lot of small business owners, I'm either preaching to the choir or I'm reminding the choir or I'm teaching them something they've never heard of. And it all starts with the basics. You got to know where you're trying to go. You got to know what you offer, and you have to truly understand your target market. And I'm not just saying 50-year-old men. No, what do these 50-year-old men do? Where do they hang out? How do they speak? What's their behavioral traits? How do they react to things? I mean, I'm talking deep dive, demographics, and then geographics. That's where you start. The second thing is a CRM. Now, many small business owners, we know that we were supposed to create a buyer's persona, which is identifying your target market. We know that, but we also knew, this is aging me, 20, 30 years ago to back up our hard drive, right? And then we'd get that blue screen and we're like, dang, I knew I should have backed up my hard drive, but I didn't. So you lost all that information. So some of this is just good reminders for those business owners that haven't done these basics. Quit wondering why you're not selling. This is why. You've got to hit the basics. You got to know where your people are that you're trying to sell to, and then record them into a CRM. It can start with a spreadsheet. It can be an Excel. It doesn't. You don't have to go. I had one client that came to us, and they just went all in on this one software that does everything. And I'm like, no. They spent thousands of dollars, paid the annual fee to get the savings. And I'm like, that is way too robust. You're going to spend more time trying to figure that out than you are using it. And then secondly, you're going to find out that you didn't need everything it does that you already paid for. So start with the basic, just the tracking. A CRM basically is if a prospect calls you today, they're interested and they say, yeah, let me think about it. Well, life happens and you forget about that person a week or two or three down the road. That person's long gone versus a CRM. You can track it. This is when I talk to them. This is the conversation. This is when they said to call, or you can set reminders in them to notify you in 48 hours to reach back out. It's just a tracker to help you keep better time. And then as far as the next steps, I say a sales playbook. And if you don't have a sales playbook, just start with a basic playbook. Identifies your demographic, your ideal target market. What are some of the basic pitches or the bullet points or things that you offer, the solutions that you offer, so that you can follow a system. And when you follow that system, if you get, 30, 45 days down the road and you haven't made one sale, well, let's tweak it. Let's change something in there. But if you're not following a consistent system, you don't know what's working or why it's not. And so those are kind of some basic things.
Yeah, I think those are important things, though. And sometimes we take for granted the smaller things are sometimes the most important things of how do we do it? A CRM allows you, maybe if you don't make a sale at that time, what do you get to do? You can then follow up with them,
Yeah.
and email marketing, especially if you're creating your own email, it's free,
Yeah.
Takes a little bit of time to create it, but once you create it, but you could have somebody else take that has that creative side and stay in touch with them. That's one thing I've been really hitting. And everybody wants to say email is dead now. How many people still look at their email every day, though?
Yeah.
I'm
It's
not
not
saying
dead.
they'll always click on your email and look at it, but if you grab their attention, or if they're in that pain at that moment and you have the right comment there, guess what they're going to do? They're going to click on that and look at it, and you're going to be that person. So really realize that becomes a big key as you're looking at it, because sales drives our business. We have to drive revenue. And I think that's the one thing, getting business owners to realize that no matter how good a widget you make, if you don't sell any, you're not going to make any money.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back after this message. And now back to the show. Well, I think that's some really important things about sales and how we've got to look at our business. But I think I want to talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about communication, because I think this is so important. And as leaders of our organizations, we are the boss. We don't say that word as much anymore, but we are that leader in that organization. And I don't know if a lot of business owners understand how important communication is. And I know you're DISC certified like myself, and I just love you to share, really go through the concepts, because I've not talked about that much on this show because I bring guests on. If you would kind of share the concepts there, and then why you think communication is so important, and what kind of, if they did learn about the DISC model and who they are, how much it would benefit them.
Yeah, I want to share a quick story before I learned what DISC was. What happened to me? I had a business partner, and I'm the type that I like details. I like to know when, where, why, so that I don't mess something up. I like to follow instructions. Some people don't. And so I had a business partner that I would say, take this bank loan to this bank, because we have about 12 locations of where these banks are, but it needed to go to a specific place because it had to go to this specific person. So I'm laying out all the details. Well, when I send emails like that, there was no response, crickets. When I learned what DISC was, I would send a one paragraph, take this to this. Just like that. Boom, got done. That's the power of DISC, learning how to communicate so that in someone else's style. So they're more productive, more efficient, and you get along. You don't have this resistance. There's DISC. Each one of those letters kind of stand for something. D is kind of your dominant person, your driven, accolade. You walk into their office, they always have awards everywhere, regional director of this, and the trophy. The I's are the influential. We kind of chatty Cathy's. You walk into a room, everybody's really calm, cool, calm, collected, and then this one person comes in, the mood changes. That kind of person. And then your S's are kind of like your stable, calm, cool, collected. They don't really react either way, but if you push their button enough, they blow up, because they've had they take it as long as they can. Your C's are kind of your compliant people. They're kind of like, I hate to label CPAs, but most CPAs are kind of a C type person. They sit, they do their work, they want a list. Nothing makes sense without facts. Like, that's why they're CPAs. It's like, you can have a CFO. If any of you business owners kind of have a tiff with your CFO from time to time, they're going by the numbers. You may have this idea or this gut feeling, but they're like, well, the numbers say differently. They're all about facts. So those are kind of the different things. And my little story kind of shares the importance of understanding how people communicate so that you can get more out of them and you don't have a tiff. And so that's kind of basically it. We all have predictable behavioral traits. We have our internal traits. So these are kind of like our DNA. Like, I was an introvert growing up. I had to go to Toastmasters to learn how to be an extrovert, but I still have that introvertness in me. I can improve it. I can work on it. And I can speak in front of tens of thousands of people. I've spoken in front of large audiences, but I still have that stuff inside me. So I've learned to overcome it. And that's the power of DISC, is you kind of learn your strengths, your weaknesses, how to get better at your weaknesses, and then also delegate your weaknesses to someone that's more qualified. I'm not a list compiler. but I like to follow lists. So on my team, I hand all those lists or those types of things, the details to my C people because they love that stuff. And so that's kind of it in a nutshell. I don't know if that answered all your questions in the short amount of time.
Yeah, I think it does. And I think the big thing is, like you were saying there, I think the key is when we know thyself.
Yes.
That's for the business owners that we're talking to here. Because the problem is, if you don't know thyself, the problem is you are really frustrating your people. And when you know how you communicate, the nice thing is now, as you learn the other styles, you can flex to those other styles and you're going to get a higher level of performance from those
Yes.
team because you're giving them the work that they love to do. And that becomes a real key. And I think that's something I learned that's early on. It was really my self-awareness, myself. That probably benefit me more than anything and realizing those benefits. As leaders, that's important, especially when we're leading organizations because we make the difference. We kind of carry our weather sometimes on our sleeve. And if we don't understand how we're affecting everyone else, it really makes a big difference in their business.
It does. And you've heard the saying, most people have the right person on the right bus and the right seat. The only way you can do that is to understand their behavioral trait. I have another client that they were getting a little slow. He was getting a little nervous, and he had some customer service reps in kind of this lobby area working together. And he said, I got to send them out to network. And I said, no, 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 no. You're fixing to lose half your staff. And he said, I got to have sales. And I was like, that's not a wise idea. He did it. He lost his staff. The reason being because they're C's. Every one of their agents were C's in this bullpen type area. We had already done assessments, so I knew that. Plus, I could kind of recognize their C behaviors. Well, C's are total introverts. They don't like to network. They don't like to go into create conversation mode and all that stuff. So most C's, when they're put into an environment that they're not comfortable with, they'll run. And that's what they did. They went and found another job. They're like, if this is what I'm doing now, I don't want to do that forever. I'm leaving. I'm going to go find somewhere else where I can sit in my comfort zone. D's are the same way. Don't try to put a D doing book work or sitting at a desk or filling out all the forms. I say for all those businesses that have high performance sales people, if you've got the resources, get them an assistant. Because I promise you that D's, you're waiting on paperwork all the time. Sales reports, receipts, anything that you need. If they're if they're doing enough sales, get them an assistant. They'll make more sales now because they're not doing those details that they hate and they procrastinate. Someone else is that's really good at it. That's kind of another example.
Yeah, great examples there and why it's so important. So know thyself. That's the challenge here. Understand your communication drives your organization forwards or it actually takes it backwards, and you're that driver in that driver's seat to make that difference in each one of those areas. We always come up to this time where, time goes so fast when I get someone on because, we've got similar philosophies that's out there. So I'm going to kind of leave you an open-ended question before we kind of wrap up. And I ask you that final question that I ask every guest. If you would share with us, just something that you think would make a difference to our listeners. They're small business owners. We've talked about some of those things that we know that's going to make a difference, but something that maybe you see every day in your line of work that is something that our business owners should be thinking about or be concerned about or, really realize that this could make a difference for their business.
Absolutely. I find that most business owners I talk to, work with, or that come to us, they're working on the wrong thing. They're working on the buzzword. Everybody says you got to have videos and you got to be on TikTok and they're doing all these things. And yes, we got to do that. But that's like long-term strategy. Like no one's going to call you today because they saw a TikTok, your first TikTok video. It's possible. 1 out of a million might call. But overall, you got to build that. Do things that you need to be doing. For instance, learn to delegate. So we have a delegation quadrant workbook. It helps you understand what you're really good at, what you're okay at, and then what you're horrible at, what you hate. Because I know a human behavior is the things that we hate that we're not good at, but they have to be done. We're going to procrastinate. And most of the time that's taxes or accounting, QuickBooks, invoicing. Can't tell you how many small business owners have a stack. They're out of cash but they have about 20 invoices they haven't sent out from 2 weeks ago, so they're just procrastinating. And so learning to delegate, which is basically a form of time management, and then learning what to delegate. I'm a big believer in automate, delegate, or eliminate.
Some great philosophies there. And I tell you, if you can become a better delegator, you're going to see, number one, you're going to enjoy your business so much more.
Oh, yeah.
That becomes the real key. And that's really why we're doing this, is we should be able to enjoy that. We should be able to do the things we truly are within our scope, our fear thing we're the best at, that unique ability. I call it, Dan Sullivan uses that term. And I think it's that when you're doing that, you're going to not get burnt out. You're not going to get overwhelmed. You're not going to get stressed because you're doing the things that you enjoy. And you can truly do that if you put the time and effort in. Michael, I appreciate you being on the podcast, but before I let you go, I always ask this guest this question. What would be your best advice you would give the business owners?
Woo, that's a good one. Because we're signing off. I just go back to the go slow to go fast. Do the necessities that need to be done. Quit putting it off, because those are the things that's probably holding you back.
Great advice there, So keep that in mind as you're looking at business owners, as you're trying to make some of those changes. That becomes the key. This third quarter and fourth quarter, what are you doing? Set yourself up for success the rest of this year. We've given some great things that you can really think about. And Michael, you can reach out to him. It's michaeldmorrison.com. We'll have it in show notes so you can check that out. Michael, anything you want to share with them about your website or information that they can get from you?
So the michaeldmorrison.com is my personal coaching business. Boss is business ownership simplified.com. That's where they can find the small business loans that they can get an answer to within 24, 48 hours, and the resources, online courses, and the rest of the stuff I was talking about.
Yep. And you can check him out. He's on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We're going to have all that in show notes available to you too. So please check it out. The big thing I want to stress, and that's what I really try to do this podcast. I do it to serve the others. And Michael has a podcast too, is we do this because we want business owners to succeed. I truly believe, and I know we are the backbone of the economy. In large companies, when things get tough, what do? 10% of the workforce is cut down. And guess what? They're out the door. Or 20%, whatever the number is. What are these small business owners? They suck it up and they figure out, how can I keep those people and keep them employed and stuff. And we need more small business owners. I hate seeing all the consolidation. That's where we get terrible customer service. But we've got to do our work. And a lot of challenge for the small business owner, sometimes they don't want to change. If you've been in business 20 years, you get kind of resistant to change. Guess what? The world is changing. We have to change with it. When you do that, you become a better business owner. So, Michael, I appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Well, I will give you the challenge of really, what do you need? We talked about several different areas. Maybe is it in sales? Maybe it is in communication. Maybe it is in the boss side of it, things that's there. Maybe it's just slowing down to speed up. You decide what it is, but take one of those actions for your business to move yourself forward. And we'll see you back here next week with another great guest, and we'll share some more information for you. So please like and share the podcast and let others know about it. Make it a great day. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much for listening to this special episode. I want to give a big shout out to Gary Wilbers for having me on his podcast, Small Business Answer Man. It was an incredible experience sharing the mic with him. If you enjoyed the conversation, be sure to check out more of his shows for some great business insights. And of course, a huge thank you to all of you for supporting Small Business Pivots. This show is brought to you by Boss, where we provide business coaching and loans to help business owners build a company that can thrive without them. If you're ready to take your business to the next level, head over to businessownershipsimplified.com and schedule your free consultation today. Until next time, keep pivoting, keep growing, and we'll see you each Wednesday on Small Business Pivots.